G'day, mate. Welcome to Friday Facts 346. He who does nothing breaks nothing, and I have a breaker of nothing with me, Mojo. How you doing, mate?
Well. What have we got here for a Friday Facts? It's almost like in Nostradamus or something.
Yeah, it's definitely Priscilla predicting the future. So we do have, and it came up last week, and we predicted this last week. Of course, it was all going to be about landfill. Because
To be fair, it was a prediction in the same way that it's like a prediction with a 1 in 1 out.
yeah.
It's like a carnival game. You know the outcome.
Yeah, well, we had the advantage of we read the patch notes, we read the bug report, we read, and I think it was written in the bug report. It was like, we want more details, and Priscilla said in the bug report he considered writing it up for the Friday Facts, and here we are. So this one was an interesting one, and like landfill, I'm sure Mojo can agree. Landfill's been interesting. Originally, Factorio didn't have landfill; it was actually a mod.
No, it was a mod. It was a really fun mod. You used to be able to craft all of the landfill and then place it, and then it would automatically fill in the entire lake. And if you did it on a really big lake, it might take half an hour doing it.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was a fun mod.
Oh, hang on. Wasn't it like, yeah, you craft it and you place it on the lake and you just fill out the whole water mass and change it to a land mass, right?
Yeah, as long as you had the materials to do it, as long as you had your inventory.
Oh, okay. All right. I think it was probably just before my time, landfill. I do remember it not existing because if you go to Reddit, okay, and it's not in the current rules of Reddit, it's in previous rules of Reddit, Factorio Reddit, there was a like no island spawns thread. Like it was against the rules. You couldn't post them because Factorio was notorious for spawning on
island spawns.
Spawning you on an island ranging from like a 10 tile C block, you cannot get off this, there's no starting ore whatsoever, to I've been at this for 20 hours, I've built myself a factory, I've explored out, and then found out I'm on a damn island with no landfill. Because landfill didn't exist and you had no way of getting off said islands.
That and whenever you generate a map, I think it was something like a 1 in 5 chance you would spawn onto one tile.
Yeah, it was really bad at one stage. And back then we didn't have a preview. So you set all your parameters and you generate, and then generating took a lot longer then than it does now. And then you load in, and sometimes you'd find out that, yeah, you're on a 10-tile island. Sometimes you find out, like, you know, it's a decent amount of space, but it's still an island. Other times you'd be there, you're at the game for 20 or 30 hours, and then find out you're stuck on an island, and you just have to that's it, I'm done. I quit, I reload, brand new map, and away we go again.
The single island one was pretty rare, though.
A single large island, it was rare, but it happened.
And I had it happen to me once, but the one tile spawn, it was again a 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chance. It was pretty.
That was pretty high. But
you get 10 people posting about it a day on Reddit at one point before they introduced that rule.
Yeah, but I still think the large island was the most frustrating because you'd spend enough time to get invested, have a base set up, and then find out you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. You only have the resources on the island. Technically means that you have to build a rocket with the resources you have. So, you know, it does give you a challenge at the same time. But yeah.
Fun fact. You know how my vanilla mega base, it's number 3.
Number what?
It's actually number 3. It's the map 3.
Let me guess. 1 and 2 were both island spawns?
No, number 1 was an infinite desert. So there's no water.
Oh, okay.
Beyond the spawn. I did actually explore and eventually found some. It was a long way out. But yeah, and I never found an end to the desert, though.
Oh, yeah. There was a feature at one stage that whatever tile set you started on, it would pretty much be that forever. Yep.
It was a very rare one. The second one was actually an island spawn.
Oh, okay. Big island with enough time to get explore and get invested?
Not really.
Not really?
It's enough. I think it was about 20 minutes in, and I was like, hang on, this is an island.
Yeah. They're not so bad. That lets you practice that early game. Everybody loves early game, right? So yeah, Friday Facts are all about landfill. So the first half is written by Priscilla, and we're going to cover pretty much this lovely bug that this GIF has been running on for quite some time. I actually came out with 18.21. I think there was an old bug like this, but back then it was a feature rather than a bug. But we'll continue on. He does have a disclaimer. I've not been around during the ancient parts of the story, speaking of which it's his 5-year anniversary at Woob. Congratulations, Priscilla. And changes I have been around for, or even done myself, I might not remember correctly. So this might not be accurate. In fact, let's say the story is purely fictional, and any resemblance to real-world events and people is just a coincidence. I like it. I like a good, strong disclaimer.
Nice, strong introduction.
Yep. So, tile transitions again. For the first couple of years in Factorio development, water drew transition over the ground tiles. The graphics for the transition tiles was taking too much space from the ground tiles, so it's not possible to draw a single tile of ground surrounded by water, nor a one-tile bridge going through water. In addition to that, the transition graphics were tileable only with the grass terrain. To enforce these constraints, the map generator was enhanced by tile correction step, purpose of which to make sure that the terrain is possible to draw without any graphical artifacts. And we do have this the old-fashioned one-tile island. Actually, no, we couldn't do one-tile islands. It'd have to be 4x4.
Yeah, it has to be a 4x4 island now. The old one-tile island can't exist because of the new tile transition.
Yeah, no, because we did have one-tile little
Technically,
islands.
the one-tile island is a 9-tile island.
No, I remember because we used to use build little land bridges. So little land bridges from A to B for just a player to walk across. Was that with 2x2 like forever?
And you could do it before the tile transition change. You could do it a 1x, and it would make a really narrow. Yeah, as I say, the tile transitions changed. So the tile transition used to be on water. Now it's on land. It was the other way around. It's one of those ways. It's different now.
We used to be able to put down a one-tile square of land, and it would look like just a little itsy-bitsy island.
Yeah, it's a tiny little slither. It'd be like a line wide.
Yeah, it'd be like a line wide, and
it was like 2 tiles wide when you placed it down.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons you used to be able to put down a piece of landfill, and then leave a gap, put down another piece of landfill, and you'd end up getting a free tile of landfill because they couldn't have a one-tile island, so it'd merge in with the closest tile.
Yeah, there was no tile transition for a one-tile gap. It could only be land.
Yeah. So, in the past, a long time ago, we used to put down a little one-tile landfill, then a gap, then one-tile landfill, then a gap, one-tile landfill, so on and so forth, to create free landfill, because landfill was really expensive, and it seemed to always be really massive, and we used to use that to fill in a lake early game. So, but back then, it was, yes, the water overlapped the ground, which led to the funny-looking terrain we had back then. So, on to map generation itself. So, of course, tile generation was executed when tiles were changed, but meant by means other than the map generator. From a script example, mods allow players to place tiles emerge. One of them was Landfill, which was adopted in the base game eventually. As far as I remember, the major trigger with reports were reports from people who happened to spawn on a large island after 20 hours of playing the game. As we said, they found out they could not continue it, and Landfill the game solved those issues by creating a new one, but placed in Landfill. The tile correction logic could decide to correct the tiles the player was standing on, trapping the player on water. And this is an old bug report that we saw, reasonably often. And we can see this player is putting down, what's that, 3x3, so a 9-tile grid, and then
2x2. 3x3?
3x3. 3x3.
So yeah, the tile transitions.
Oh no, actually no, that is 2x2. Okay, so when the player's doing this, they're being teleported from the mainland that they're standing on onto the island, because there was water between the island and the mainland, and basically the player didn't connect things properly to make the game engine happy, and got stuck on an island with nowhere to get back to go get more landfill to get themselves off the man-made island. So you just screwed your own pooch.
No wonder I was confused. I hadn't realized the second GIF or second animation is the old tile transition. Yeah,
that's
where it
the
used to just go really
old one.
screwy.
Yeah, so that was when we had water overlap land. Now we have land overlaps water.
Yeah. You thought it was bad. You think it's a pain now. Back then, placing down like a single tile of landfill would just do the screwiest thing.
It would. As long as you stayed at a distance, as I said, you put down one tile, leave a gap, one tile, leave a gap, one tile, and get a free tile of landfill. If you'd left...
The thing that I forgot to mention there was that was actually kind of a big deal because of how screwy it was putting down a single one. If you told bots to do it, they would waste a huge amount of landfill just trying to fight against the tile.
They would... So they'd end up putting down like a 2-tile or a 3-tile gap or whatever it happened to be, and you'd end up having water fill in where you just had land, and then you'd have to go then and put down another lot of landfill over the top. It was just... Robots were not a way to do landfill. You did it by hand, okay? You just accepted you did it by hand or overspent landfill to do so. And the only way the bots could do it was with a mod from memory.
Yeah, you needed a mod at one point.
Yeah, bots couldn't carry landfill. That was something that was added in... I want to say 17.
I'm pretty sure it was around in 14.
I don't know. Something in the comments will definitely correct us.
It's either 14 or 15. I don't remember which one exactly.
I know it was a feature that was highly requested and finally got added because they could lay concrete and other things for ages. But landfill was one of those things you still had to do by hand. Anyway, so we had at one stage that, players could get stuck. And now we have ground draws, shore transitions over water tiles now, and shore's not limited to grass terrain anymore. So this is the modern version way of doing it. This made the tile correction that they'd added previously mostly obsolete, but it's still used to enforce some soft tile placement rules during map generation. For example, deep water should not be adjacent to ground tiles. So as we can see with this example above, that when the player puts down the landfill, makes a little island, the deep water gets pushed back and out of the way to allow shallow water to be up against the land tiles. And then again, as you probably remember 2 weeks ago, the new transition graphics and newly possible one wide creeks made it feel like players getting stuck on invisible walls, or is unable to step over a really narrow gap in the ground. In addition, we already had the character slide around a bit around empty corners, and the new corner tile transitions were visually diagonal. Made me miss the behavior when colliding with tiles. So I started reworking how the player character would collide with tiles, and these collisions got resolved. What I found worked well was to ignore the bounding box of the character and just test the terrain directly at the player's position. If the tile type at that position is walkable, the player doesn't collide. If it's not walkable, we figure out a shape of the transition of the tile and make the character collide only with some parts of the tile. So we can see in this, which was added into Factorio at some stage, yes, you could have sections where, because you couldn't walk over a one-tile gap of water, and it was generally a little bit clunky, you'd have situations where you couldn't walk past this diagonal part, you can't get over onto this little bit of land, and also down to this bottom part. So, yeah, and was this in-game, or was this just in experiments when they were tweaking code?
That looks pretty current. I think. Trouble is, I don't know of any map which actually. It's a bit of an unofficial thing to come across. But yeah, sometimes I know there are a few times where you would encounter something like that, where it's just feels like it's impossible to.
Yeah, it feels like it's impossible to get over areas, and it also feels really clunky when walking around curves in landfill. And the clunkiness has been there for a while. I don't remember problems walking over one-tile gaps, but, maybe it was in one of the updates and removed there afterwards, or fixed there afterwards, because originally you could walk over these little one-tile creeks, or originally. At some stage,
usually if we encounter them, we landfill them, so you don't normally notice them.
Yeah, that too. Look, landfill's one of those things that after it was added, people just, you don't use a bit, use a lot. So Priscilla's goal was to make playing movement not frustrating around water. They intended the rest of collisions to work where they used to, despite, for example, enemies not being able to always chase after a player. The map generator didn't create maps on which this would happen often, and I didn't mind players using landfill to create passages could not be crossed by enemies. It just didn't seem to be worth fueling this chain reaction of solution to a previous problem creating a new problem because changing player position or player collision was not without its own issues either. Have you noticed anything unusual about walls placed next to water? Hint, hint. Yeah, they sort of they line up as if there's another wall there when there isn't another wall there. And I like that effect, honestly. I think it looks more reinforcing when they you put walls right up against the shoreline. I like the effect.
I wasn't a fan.
I just figure it's to stop sea bombardments for when we get swimming biters, which is definitely going to happen if it's not already on the mod portal right now. I didn't look. Anyhow, what I wanted to do was to make a special collision function for the player character. But I soon learned we have several collision functions for different situations. I didn't want to make a special version of each of them, so I decided to add a flag to the player's collision mask that would modify the collision detection method. Naturally, I want to make it possible for modders to change the collision mask of the character entity, so I expose the flag to the prototype definitions. Mods end up using the flag on non-character entities, like transport drones, and construction drones, and mining drones. And after Ox reworked the Pathfinder, the flag started causing crashes. Ox fixed it, but he changed my special logic to consider the entire bounding box again instead of just the entity position, which made the feeling of player movement worse. This time I decided to solve it by adding an optional parameter to the collision functions instead of yet another flag that would indicate the collision was being calculated for player-controlled entity to determine if the old behavior should be used or not. And that's how the bug was introduced. Remember that landfill bug with the correction, with tile correction creating water under the player? Well, the fix for it was to add a piece of code to the end of the build terrain routine that would check the player who had built the tiles was not colliding with the water. And if they do, they just place the ground underneath them to correct the results of the tile correction. The special player collision logic allows players to get so close to the water tile that his bounding box collides with the water, and then when I added an extra parameter to the collision functions, I didn't adjust this code. So it was using consider the entire bounding box collision behavior and falsely detecting the character entity as colliding with the tiles and trying to save the character by placing ground under its feet. And we have this lovely GIF here that examples it perfectly. So the player is on the border of land and water.
Yep, the bounding box is over both.
Yep. And when you place landfill, we go all the way back up to our save that we had from the very, very old version of landfill that stopped you getting stuck on a little island, because that's what they did. They just made sure that, hey, if you're placing a little island and it happens to leave you, stuck on being teleported onto a magical island, it just add a little bit more landfill underneath you, and that's how one of the reasons we've got free landfill. But yeah, you'd end up with a situation where now, even if you're placing landfill where you're not standing because you're half over the edge, because that's now a thing, you could have landfill magically appear underneath you. Also, more importantly, if you're on a ribbon world and you walked up to the edge of the ribbon and then placed landfill, you could then wander outside the map.
You can start replacing... That was a funny one. You can start replacing the void with landfill.
With green landfill, green grass. Actually, no, it wouldn't be green grass. It'd be this tiled dirt that we have now. But yes, interesting bug to create. And here comes the revelation, the big confession. When the first post reporting the bug came in, I immediately knew what the problem was. It wasn't the first time I've seen it. The same issue happened to me when I was making the special player collision logic the first time around. Back then, I caught it and fixed it before the entire tile transition rework was merged in the main code base. But I didn't make a test. I did not make a test. Yeah, and it's just like it's old relic code being interfaced with old relic code being something written for an exception to yeah. Well, actually, it's got a summary here. So this is how a bug like this happens. Short version would be something like, the bug was a result of long-forgotten pieces of code that are supposed to solve an edge case problems that were usually created by solutions to other edge case problems, interacting in an unintended way after changes were made to solve yet another edge case problem. Yeah. It's one of those just like, the stars align, everything has to go wrong in the perfect way to get landfill instantly under a player when you're standing on the edge. And if the player was like 3 pixels higher, it wouldn't happen. It's just one of those weird bugs that came up. So yeah, in Czech we have a saying for what I've not found an English equivalent. He who does nothing breaks nothing. Can you think of an English equivalent, Mojo?
Not really. I've been looking at it before and I've been trying to figure it out, but even that doesn't quite. I can't quite make sense of it.
I don't remember like any. I've forgotten the word for it now. Any saying like exactly or summarizes this perfectly, but I do think the phrase just "he who does nothing breaks nothing" is perfect.
It's not far off.
Yeah. It's kind of reassuring when something unintentionally breaks during activity, resulting in inconvenience. The only way to make certain that nothing would have broke would have been do nothing about it. At times, the proverb sounds like advice. If I can't figure out all the problems of a new feature change or a bug fix will call, or just the number of potential issues we'll need to solve during the change, do the change seems overwhelming. Doing nothing starts to feel like an option with the best possible outcome, but that's just analysis paralysis creeping in. And look, these sort of bugs happen. And going back to like the second picture, there is no way they could have left the game where you got teleported to a one-tile island. So they had to put in code to handle that edge case. And then when they changed the tile transitions, they didn't have to add code to wandering around like the edges of landfill creeks and lakes and stuff. But it was definitely a valid improvement, because walking around these little man-made islands was an absolute pain at one stage. It was just a nightmare, and you can see the player not being able to make it from one spot to another. It's a giant pain in the butt. So it was again an edge case that needed to be tweaked. So they tweaked it, and that has led to this lovely problem of free invisible landfill that comes under your feet, which is now all fixed finally.
Yeah, and down the rabbit hole he goes.
Oh, look, I think
he's reached the bottom of the rabbit hole.
Well, maybe there might be something else that comes up in the future. We'll see.
Very likely.
Yeah, as long as they keep playing with tile transitions, I'm willing to bet something else will come up in the future. But it's one of those things that, like, getting close to 1.0, it's going through and tweaking all these, like, not working on big features, because big features are new additions to the game. It's going through and spending a little bit of time on long-standing parts of the game, which all lead back to ancient, forgotten, semi-written, not very well commented old code that is going to bring out weird bugs like this. And some are going to be easy to track down. I'm willing to bet some are just going to go, they're just going to be completely missed for months until somebody comes up with an edge case, like we had with the with characters walking around the edge of stuff, which wasn't really a thing until Clonan's transport drones really, really highlighted how unwell non-human characters dealt with tile transitions at the edges. Yeah. So then when we go on to the last part of the Friday Facts, the one that comes with the pretty pictures, the short part, character and vehicle movement effects. This week, happy to show the latest visual effects Dom has been working on, carrying on the topic of improving the way the terrain and environment feels as it reacts to player. Dom and Priscilla have spent quite some time working on movement effects for the character and vehicles. As you walk around on certain trains, the character will kick up some dust and dirt. And I like it.
Yeah, it's simple, and compared to the previous bit, it's simple and to the point. I mean, you can see as he goes from the clay to the desert, the dust kicked up is different, and it even makes use of.
Yeah, look, it's I like it. It's simple, it's quick, it's easy. Well, it's probably not quick and easy, but it's simple and great to look at. And it sort of reminds me of, again, going back to the other Factory game, Satisfactory. Satisfactory recently, in like one of their previous updates, for update 3, they added this sort of effect that when you walked around, you left footprints in the terrain. Same as they added the slide effect, which is something I don't think we'd ever see in Factorio, because it's not.
There's not really any point for it.
Yeah, there's no point for it. In Satisfactory, it looks cool because it's first person, but in Factorio, no point. But again, it was something that only in certain terrains do you leave a mark where you jump on the, well, you slide down hills and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's one of those little features. I guess it's probably one of the ones that's taken a long time, because I do know as you add more speed to the player character, the feet don't exactly line up with the ground anymore, and they tend to slide forward as the character moves. It does require excessive amounts of speed. Like, I really recommend Power Armor 3 full of exoskeletons. Exoskeleton Mark 2s.
Or just game.player.'s character running speed for.
Yeah, just go into the console commands, set the player speed to something ridiculous, and yeah, you'll notice that especially if you zoom enough, that the feet slide across the ground.
Yeah, it stops animating properly.
So yeah, I'm willing to bet it took some tweaking, and I really want to do that, and I want to hear the sound effects of players running that fast. Okay, something to do after the video. Go look at the Factorio console, look up how to change the player speed. It's written in the wiki from memory. Literally
Game.player.character _ running speed _speed.
Type that into Google. That'll probably get you 90% of the way there. Factorio.
I remember that because I use it a lot.
Okay. I like just going to Google and typing Factorio Wiki Console. 3 words, press enter. It's probably the page you want. It has lots of console commands to do all sorts of things, like turning off night and setting the time of day and all sorts of weird things. But yeah, the effect actually adds a big difference how it feels to walk around. Well, the GIF might not show it well, especially with some exoskeletons equipped. You really feel like you're zooming around in a real place. Walking around also leaves some more subtle footprints on the ground, which help connect the character to the terrain. But they've also added vehicles also kick up dust and dirt as you drive around. This feature is not actually as simple as it would seem from the result, but there are quite a few new features under the hood to make it possible. And I really like the cars driving around, and the tanks.
That's cute.
But it does bring up a question, Mojo, and you're my ancient Factorio knowledge person. Didn't the tank used to leave tracks behind it? Just a short little trail?
No, but it did used to belch out a lot more smoke.
Yeah.
In fact, both the car and the tank used to belch out a lot of smoke.
Yeah, they used to put out dark black smoke and a lot of it.
Admittedly, I think it was 16. They suddenly did a ton more.
Yeah, I sort of had the impression, not so much the car, but definitely the tank had some tracks it left behind it. But if I'm wrong, that's perfectly fine, because that's the next feature request. Can we please have the tanks leave some track trails? Just short ones, 10 tiles?
Usually going through a forest and it leaves destroyed tree stumps behind.
Yeah. Cars leave destroyed power poles behind them. Small power poles. Just rows of them.
And damaged rocks in front of them.
And damaged rocks. Yeah, because they don't have enough grunt to go through a rock. They do have a machine gun on the front, which is really good at clearing out rocks. But yeah, small power poles and tanks just leave dead trees.
Tanks just leave dead squash power poles and underground pipes.
Yeah, underground pipes. If you're going too fast, do not hit a roboport to slow down. The roboport won't survive. Or an assembler, or...
Most of the base, really.
Actually, I think a refinery lives, but that could be because I hit a couple of pipes on the way in and slowed down.
Yeah, it's usually buffered with some... what do they call that armor on tanks? When they strap plates of armor away from the main body of the tank. From the hull.
Don't know.
Whatever it's called. That's what the pipes are.
Padding, no. Compression, no.
There's a particular name for it, anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say also the tank and the rock detector. It's not a car, it's a rock detector.
No, it's a small power pole detector. Dead set. The second you get in that car, you're going to find every small power pole you've ever left in your base. Or all the ones you've left out in the wilderness. That thing just, it's a magnet for them. Yeah. So
it's always the rock detector for me.
Probably because you drive around outside the base, right?
Yeah, I don't drive inside the base normally.
Inside the base, around the outskirts of the base, like either or, you're going to find every small power pole. Outside the base, random rock, like giant open field, driving right down the middle, you're going to find a rock. Just guarantee it every single time. Tanks go through rocks now, so pretty much.
Yeah, they don't take. They're set not to take damage from trees and rocks now.
Yeah, and they go through them terribly well. They don't like the car hits a rock and it's just dead stop. Same with a car hits a tree and you'll slow down. It hits 2 trees, forget it. It'll sit there and damage the tree, and eventually you can go through it, but it's like a dead stop. Yeah. Tank just rolls through things. Anyway.
Tank's best for rolling through everything.
Yeah,
that's why I don't use a tank normally, is because I just say, it's going to happen eventually, so I'll just roll the tank through everything.
Yeah.
So the boss fix it.
Yeah, tanks roll through everything, including your base. Great for PvP matches. Anyway, with all that said, I think that's it for this Friday Facts. It had an interesting write-up. I will say that I like the detailed write-ups. I do admit it. I like it when they go into the history and the problems they come with just one small bug that just came out of nowhere. And I also like the pretty pictures of tanks and cars, footprints. I am going to add the feature request. Yeah, can we have some trails from the tanks, please? That just You
really want that, don't you?
I do. I don't know. I actually thought it was legitimately in the game already, or had been previously and had been removed. And, okay, I fully admit I could be wrong, but I feel like there's a game, Command & Conquer, that's where it's from. I'm pretty sure it was old Command & Conquer, like not original Command & Conquer, maybe Red Alert, maybe Tiberian Sun Generals, one of them added the tank tracks in the ground. Early
it would have
on.
been Tiberian Sun at the earliest. Red Alert didn't.
Man, it could even be June 2. Like, in fact,
I don't think June did that. Then again, I never really played June. It's a grandfather of RTS, yes. But being the grandfather means it's a little rough around the edges.
Oh, it is very, 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 very rough around the edges.
It's like Warcraft, the original Warcraft. It's not really a playable game anymore.
No, the original Warcraft, unfortunately, it was an improvement. It was definitely an improvement.
Second gen. Ish. It's like 1.5, really.
I'd have to look it up. Whether I'm pretty sure we had June 2, then Command & Conquer, and then Warcraft.
Pretty sure Warcraft came first, because it was like 93, 94.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
Command & Conquer's 95, I think.
Or somebody will tell me down in the comments, along with Tell Me to Buy Command & Conquer Remastered. It's on my list of possibles. I don't know if I want to. I need to see it first. Anyway, all that said, we're completely sidetracked again. It's Friday Facts 346. Thank you. We're all done. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.